Most first-time home buyers jump into the house hunting part, which, hey, I get that's the fun part. But before you head over to Zillow, make sure you watch this video first as I walk you through the steps of getting yourself prepared to start the fun house hunting. So, anyone here a planner? Anyone? I'm a planner by nature. I pass that on to my daughter. She plans everything. She's probably a little worse than me, but don't tell her I said that, okay? But I like to plan everything. So even when I've bought houses in the past, there is a process. And by following a process and starting it way in advance, it's going to cause you way less stress and you're going to be more prepared and make the process so much happier, especially when you're looking for houses because that should be fun. The first thing you need to know is, what is your credit score? Do you know yours? That's important because the higher your credit score is, the lower your interest rate's going to be. That'll lower your payment, and that's going to help you pay less interest throughout the loan, especially if you're on a 30-year loan. That's going to make a huge difference down the road and save you thousands of dollars. Now, just want to throw one thing in there too. Just because you have a certain payment amount with your 30-year loan doesn't mean you can't pay extra. So no matter what your credit score is, if you pay extra, even $100 a month extra to go towards the principal, that's going to knock your interest rate down. Well, not your interest rate, but knock your interest amount down tremendously. So I highly suggest that you pay extra if you're able to. Okay, number two, not all lenders are the same. And I know when you hear that, you're probably thinking, well, she's talking about, yeah, some are nice, some are bad, some are good, some have better rates, some have better terms. And I'm actually not talking about that. What I'm talking about is overlays. And let's say you do an FHA and the minimum credit score is 580. Okay, you may go to a lender and yes, they will participate in a FHA loan, but maybe their overlay is 620. So even though 580 is the minimum for FHA, they have their own guidelines. And then you may go down the road to another bank and they have a different overlay. So that's important too, because you need to know and have the time to be able to get your credit score up so that you can meet the requirements of any program you're interested in. So I'll just talk about credit score. Where do you check your credit score? Okay, I think the number one place that people think of is Credit Karma. And actually, Credit Karma isn't a bad spot to check out. Now, don't tell the lenders I said this, and I'm talking about Credit Karma because they won't like that. It's not completely accurate, but it's a good place to start for free. It gives you your TransUnion, your Equifax. You can check your credit scores. You can check the information that's on your credit, the accounts that you have, any addresses, all that, so you have an overall picture. But don't say, okay, my credit score is 800 and think that's really your credit score, because it could be lower, it could be higher. Mine's always ran where my actual credit score is higher than what Credit Karma says, which is a really bad thing. But don't have that in your mind that Credit Karma is the only place or it is correct. What you want to do is go to myfico.com. Now that is accurate. And that's going to give you the big picture, the actual credit score that is on your credit, and it's the one the lenders are going to see as well. So that one is not free. But there's a couple ways to do that. Two ways to do that. You can do for 1 month, pay a fee for 1 month, and that's it. The other thing is a subscription. Now that tends to be less expensive than just doing the 1 month. And that you can actually cancel it before that 1 month is over. So you can buy 1 month of the subscription, then check it out, work on things, and then if you don't want to renew, you can cancel it, but make sure you cancel it before the renew date because they'll renew it. Now, if it's something that you have a lot of things on there that you need to dispute, you may want to go ahead and get that subscription and then start working on disputing those items. And it may take a little bit of time. Now, when I talk about time, you may think, well, how long is this going to take me, or how long should I actually prepare? Well, let's talk about your lease. Let's say your lease is up June 30th and you want to be in the house by the time your lease is up. Usually it takes 30 to 45 days to close on a house. Now, so you want to work backwards. So we're looking at, you wipe out June, you're working in May, but I would actually say you don't want to go under contract in May per se, because things can go wrong. There can be delays. You may have your date set in stone, something happens, and you can't close on time. If you have a month-to-month lease, it's not as critical to meet those timelines because they have probably a 30-day notice, maybe a 60-day notice wherever you're leasing. So you can do the month. That's a little bit easier. But I would really recommend that you give yourself more time. It's less stressful because if you're trying to move, get it in the new house, clean your apartment or your rental, and then trying to clean for your new place or paint or do any repairs, and you got that time crunch, it's very, very stressful. So I recommend that you try to go under contract a couple months in advance, 45 days at max. But also make sure you have a lender who can do things quickly, because some lenders drag their feet, and there's some lenders who are like, they're on top of things. And I have one of those, so I always recommend a really good lender. She's on top of things and things get done quickly. But give yourself that cushion, okay? Okay, the other thing you want to do is check your debt to income. So just a simple way of thinking of it is, it's basically how much debt do you have compared to what you have coming in as far as income, and the percentage of that. Different loans require different debt to income ratios. So you want to make sure this is what's included is any loans, credit cards, car loans, and even student loans. And let's talk about that for a second. Student loans, even if you're not paying yet, that payment amount, potential payment amount down the road, will go towards your debt to income. So you're not even paying it. It's part of your debt, because in the future, it's going to be part of your debt. So you need to factor that in. So if you start, like, even let's say you're renting a house or an apartment, you just signed a year lease. It's not too soon to start. In fact, it gives you a better idea on what you need to do. So if you need to pay some credit cards down, or if you need to pay a car down, this gives you the time to do that without panicking. So make sure you start with plenty of time. You take all your debts, not utilities or things like that, but your student loan, even if you're not paying it. Okay, the next thing is, how much do you really need to buy a home? Now, this is a wide open situation because there are various loans that require different percentage down. Also, if you see a loan that says no money down, there's not going to be a scenario, more than likely, where it is absolutely zero money down. You will have to probably pay some type of closing costs also. So when I talk about down payment, I'm referring to just the down payment. Closing costs are separate. So let's use FHA as an example. FHA is 3.5% down. Then you have your closing cost, and a rough estimate is 3 to 4% of the purchase price. So you're looking at 3.5%, 4%. So you're looking at 7.5% of the purchase price to come to closing. That doesn't include inspections. You're going to have home inspection, WDO inspection. Let's say if there's a pool, that's a little extra cost. If it's on a septic, you can have that inspected. That's a little extra cost as well. Those are things that's going to vary depending on the house that you get. Now, there are ways to where you have less money at closing. There's down payment assistance programs. you can ask the seller to pay some closing costs on your behalf. There are grants, which are, whenever you hear grants, that's forgiven. That means you don't have to pay it back. That's nice to have that chunk of change. So there are ways to come to closing with the least amount in your pocket. Or should I say, the least amount out of your pocket. Not in your pocket, but out of your pocket. Okay, so there are hidden costs that most buyers don't think about, because if you're a first-time home buyer, you just don't know. You don't know until you know. And that is what's involved with your payment. So you have principal, interest, you also have your property taxes, and you also have homeowners insurance. Homeowners insurance helps to cover your house in the event of something nature-wise that happens, or a fire, hurricanes, but there's also flood insurance. So if you're in zone X, we want zone X. That's no flood. It's flood insurance is not required by your lender. If you're in other flood zones, your lender will require that you purchase flood insurance. If you're not in a flood zone, usually your insurance for that flood insurance is less than what it would be if you were in a flood zone. So remember that. We can check the FEMA maps to find out if that house you're interested is in a flood zone or not. Property taxes. Those are based off what the current seller is paying. But that's going to be reassessed come November. It'll be reassessed at what you purchased the house for. So that's going to change your payment. And more than likely, especially if the owner has been in that house for a long time and has super low property taxes, it's going to be higher. So each property is different because it depends on when the seller bought it and how long they've lived there. So we need to factor that in. We'll look at each individual house, because I don't want you to come November tax time and boom, here's this huge tax bill and you're stressed and you can't enjoy your house. That is no fun. Repairs, that's the other thing. Things will go wrong. And I've had, like, I bought a house, we moved in, not even a month later, the air compressor for the AC, it just broke. And it's hot in Florida. So that was $1,500 right away. So the newer the house, the newer the components, the less chances of them breaking right away, but it can happen. Nothing's perfect. Now, your homeowner's insurance, let me back up to that a little bit. Newer the home, usually the less it costs too. Now, if it's an older home, don't stress about that and think, oh man, I should stay away from those. It depends when the current owner has maintained them. You know, how old is the roof? How old is the HVAC? Your hot water heater, your electrical box. All those things are the big ticket items. And you want to know when they were replaced, how much life is left, because those are costs that can happen, and they happen usually at the worst time. So make sure you try to get into that pattern of saving. Every month, save, 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 save. Have yourself a fund that is just for repairs. So if something does happen, let's say one of your pipes on your hot water heater bursts, and it's shooting out water into your kitchen, and you don't find out until you almost slip and fall. Luckily, it was an easy fix, but those little things happen, so you want to be prepared for it. So now that you know what to look for, your credit, your debt, your savings, the next step to understand is your loan options. There are so many different loan options that you can do. And that's exactly what I'm going to cover in the step number 2. I'm happy to walk through your numbers so that you can move forward with confidence and get to that house hunting phase, because that's the fun part.